Hello, Professor. This is my presentation on my speech communications class and the general education competencies I used during it. The class I would have to say that has best exemplified the use of the 6 general education competencies in my academic career was definitely my speech communications class. The requirement of this class was for every student to give a 2-minute presentation on every class on a topic individually assigned by the professor. Therefore, this class required us to demonstrate not only oral communication, but also information literacy and critical thinking. The first competency I will talk about is oral communications. According to the syllabus, oral communications is the ability to speak appropriately, clearly, and precise. This speech class not only required all these abilities, but also required the ability to provide relevant and reliable supporting facts and materials about our topics. The next competency I will discuss is information literacy. According to the syllabus, information literacy is the ability to obtain, evaluate, organize, properly cite, and use a wide range of resources for independent learning and practical problem solving. This speech class exemplified this competency because it required us to research our topics thoroughly in order to create an informative presentation using a wide variety of resources, such as searching in the library for articles, or being able to identify reliable websites to use as information. And it required us to use practical problem solving to present the information in an interesting and informative way that captured our audience. The next competency I will discuss is critical thinking. According to the syllabus, critical thinking involves the ability to analyze and insightfully interpret information in depth. As I previously mentioned, in this speech communication class, we were individually assigned research topics to present on. This required the ability to think of ways to present in-depth information, not only thoroughly, but in an interesting way that captured my audience. The best presentation I thought of from this class that exemplifies the 3 competencies I just discussed was the assignment where I was given the hint, Father of Railways and Why He Matters to the U.S. That led me to use my information literacy competency skills and my critical thinking skills to discover George Stephenson, born June 9th, 1781, who earned the title Father of Railways with his steam locomotion number 1. Continuing to use my information literacy competency skills, I continued my chronological presentation and presented Robert Stephenson, George Stephenson's son, who built upon his father's locomotion number 1 and created the rocket, a more powerful steam engine. Continuing my information literacy competency and critical thinking competency skills, I continued my research in Robert Stephenson and discovered him and his rocket, his steam locomotion, participated in the Rainhill Trials, which was a race in which numerous engineers and their design locomotives participated in numerous events and trials over a 3-day period to determine whose design of a locomotive was the best, and that engineer and their company would win the contract to the first ever railway connecting Manchester and London, which was obviously a big deal. As a result of these trials, Robert Stephenson's rocket won every single event in thorough fashion. Many of the other locomotives that competed did not even compete in all the events, and many of them broke down and did not even compete one full event. Now, again, my topic was to present why this matters to the United States. Using my information literacy skills, I determined that this mattered to the United States because I discovered upon further research that because Robert Stephenson won the Rain Hill trials, him and his father became the owners of the largest railroad company and railroad parts and locomotive producers, meaning they designed not only the engines but also the railroads themselves in Europe. And as a result, they became the first to build the first railways in the U.S., which was the Baltimore, Ohio Railroad. They not only built the locomotives, but they built every single part of the railroad as well. In conclusion, I believe my speech communications class was an excellent example of the use of multiple general education competencies. Obviously, as a speech class, I used oral communications to speak clearly and precise and appropriately, and use different techniques to keep my audience interested. Additionally, it required the use of information literacy. I was able to research my topics thoroughly enough to present it in an in-depth way that my audience was able to understand thoroughly and simply, and didn't leave them wondering what the heck my presentation was on. Finally, critical thinking was required to find a way to not only organize this information, but to present it in an interesting way that captivated my audience. And every week I was required to create a new PowerPoint or new presentation that not only was informative, but was interesting and really drew my audience in. For these reasons, I think that my speech communications class was an excellent example of the use of general education competencies as it used 3 of the 6. Thank you.